All right, so we're gonna have to go old school on some stuff because audio decided not to work for us today, which is great. I'm just gonna move this out of the way real quick here, and we'll get started. All right, good on my side. All right, cool. So, yep, there we go. That's probably where we want to be. So the reason why you guys are all here, exposing the threat, uncovering the hidden risks to cable modem security. So we're going to go over a little bit about who I am. There we go. That is obviously out of place. That's cool. All right, so I'm a senior systems engineer with over 12 years of experience in implementation and consulting. I have previously worked as a network engineer for a small ISP in the Milwaukee area. I enjoy disassembling and studying technology to gain a deeper understanding of how things work. I tend to wait till the last minute to do things. So if this talk is all over the place, that's the reason why. So first and foremost, we're going to go over some legal disclaimers. Everything in this presentation is basically for educational purposes only. And all testing was done with privately owned hardware. It's worth noting that the information presented applies to major ISPs worldwide. So we're going to go over a couple of things. We're going to explore potential vulnerabilities and discuss what you can do to address them. We're going to talk about how cable modems work, and apparently my stuff is all out of order, but that's okay, because, you know, like I said, last minute. You also trust that your ISP is protecting you, so we're going to take a little bit closer look at that, and we're just going to kind of give you guys a quick overview of what the cable plant looks like from the head end. You're going to have a satellite signal coming in from various sources. It's going to go into a combiner/splitter. You're going to have a CMTS, that stands for the cable modem termination system. That is the thing that your cable modem connects to when you turn it on. There's going to be a video head end. There's going to be internet services. There's going to be management networks. There's going to be a time of day server, a TFTP server. That's important. I'll go over some of that a little bit later. Some local servers and local programming. A lot of carriers will have a variation of local links that they use from local TV stations. From there, it goes over coax through a fiber node. Typically, they consider that the HFC network. I don't remember what HFC stands for off the top of my head, so sorry. It is what it is. Thank you. So at the home, you're going to have a RF network that comes in. You're going to have a cable modem, you're going to have computers and television, STVs, which basically are the devices that will receive your TV signal. And that's how we're going to go over on that slide. So we're going to go over a quick overview of how a cable modem works. This is definitely not the extensive list, but it's presented here for the sake of simplicity. The cable modem turns on. It will search for a QAM signal. It will locate the upstream signal. The modem will send a DHCP request. The head end will send a DHCP response along with the TFTP server and the configuration file for the modem to download. Once the modem connects to the TFTP server and downloads the configuration file, it will determine if BPI mode is enabled. That is basically the quote-unquote privacy of your device when it comes to the internet, of how they essentially protect you. We're going to go into that in just a couple seconds. Assuming that the key exchange is successful and the network access equals 1, which is a configuration file setting, the device will be connected to the internet. So, BPI, baseline privacy. It follows cable modem registration. As I said before, it's for privacy. It encrypts traffic flows for the upstream and downstream, providing user data privacy. Go into that in a second. It provides a cable operator with basic protection of theft of service. It incorporates authentication mechanisms for both the cable modem to the CMTS and from the CMTS to the cable modem. It includes key distribution for and traffic keys for and timelines. So the modem will essentially redo its handshakes when it needs to. It uses 56-bit DES. As I was saying, new to DOSIS 3.0 and 3.1, AES is 128-bit available. And according to the RC, 56-bit desks must be supported. So most ISPs will use 56-bit desks because why bother? They don't care. Anyways, we'll move over to the configuration file a little bit. It controls a whole bunch of things. There is a string that allows remote access via SNMP, the Simple Network Management Protocol. There'll be usernames, passwords for Telnet, SSH, HTTP, assuming that they are enabled. Please understand that the configuration file doesn't always control this. It also does use TR69. It's just a different method of sending data down to devices out of band. It will control things like speed and bandwidth. It will support things like QoS, assuming this ISP supports it. It also will give you options to update software. So if your device is out of date, they will push down basically a software configuration package down to your modem remotely. It deals with IP-based firewalls and port blocking. Encryption, as I mentioned just a couple seconds ago. Network status, whether access to the modem can access the network or not. Along with a whole bunch of other things that we are not going to get into in this particular talk. So what is TR69? Well, that's the Technical Report 69. It is a technical specification that defines the application layer for remote management of end-user devices. I'm not going to go into too much on that. It's just a way of managing a device remotely out of band from basically the head end. There's some Wikipedia stuff there if you feel like you want to look into it further. So this is cool, but what does it actually mean? Well, there are numerous possibilities available if you have the right information. And through thorough research and analyzing data, you'll find sort of interesting stuff that you can look at. And what I mean by that, well, it may surprise you to know that even seemingly secure devices can be vulnerable to attacks. Let's consider an all-in-one cable modem for an example that you might have in your house. It's possible to retrieve clear text passwords, the wireless passwords of these devices remotely in plain text. It is possible, and how you might ask, it can be done via a simple SNMP walk against the device. That's all it takes. It is not secured at all. With this method, it is possible to attain much more information than just a wireless password. It's also potentially reveal a lot of data about the device, the network, and the targets that are on top of that network as well. It's also worth noting that this method isn't foolproof, and some modems may be more secure than others. It all depends on the ISP and how much time they've actually went in to worry about trying to secure it. It's also important to be aware of how potential vulnerabilities that yourself you can do to try to protect yourself against these sort of potential attacks. Throughout the rest of the presentation, we'll cover other potential access methods and security risks associated with the modem, as well as discussion ways to mitigate some of these risks and to try to keep your device as secure as you can. So, as I was saying, if you send a simple SNMP walk to a particular device at a particular OID, which is how you talk to these things over SNMP, it will literally give you the SSID and the password of the device remotely in plain text. So that's kind of cool, but what does that actually give you? Well, that's where wiggle.net comes into play. So you can physically locate where that device is in the world. Now, mind you, it doesn't always give you exactly what you're looking for, but if you know first, where the device is physically located and you have the person's password, well, you got free internet now, so that's kind of cool. So, as I was saying before, we have free Wi-Fi, and because ISPs and installers have particular habits when it comes to passwords, you probably have their phone number too, because for the most part, these cable modems will have the person's phone number as their passwords. So, let's not try some stuff at home here, but we can, as I was saying before, we picked up the wireless SSID, the password, the person's personal phone number, which you can do all sorts of nasty things with. But wouldn't it be cool if you could intercept all their traffic as well over the internet? Because, that'd be fun. Well, we have 4 ways of doing it. First, we can log into the web interface of the modem remotely. You can find how to get that in the next couple of slides here. Second, you can do it via SNMP. However, some cases it may not be feasible or possible. It all depends on firewall rules of the local device as if it's actually going to happen or not. Third, you can log into the device over SSH for further access. And last but not least, because these things are so insecure, you can log in over Telnet because, you know, Telnet's secure, right? So let's go over SNMP a little bit. We don't have the OID, that's perfectly fine. We can just tell it to give us everything by doing an SNMP walk. Doing an SNMP walk on the enterprise OID structure will give us all the nasty, beautiful things in plain text for usernames and passwords for everything across the board. So if you want the telnet, well, cool. MSO user and password is the username and password login to that particular device. As you can clearly see, even the user's passwords are open to plain text. Underneath the user side of the house, you can see the password in this particular case is password. But even if the user sets it to something that they have no idea what it is, you can literally look it up remotely and say, okay, give me your password. And it says, okay, here it is, no problem. All in plain text. It's great. But as I was saying before, we're more interested in being able to take all their traffic over the internet. So how about we decide to set their DNS servers? Because that's fun. Or setting it via SNMP, because you can do that too. Because that's also bad, right? So, what if you don't have HTTP access, or you don't have access to, basically SNMP at all? And how can you determine what to scan, considering the ISPs usually have unique networks? Well, Eris is your friend. They come back and give you all the data for you. If you want to look for things, you just have to ask it, hey, where is it? And typically speaking, it'll come back and give you the CIDR range, the handles, who to talk to, who you know you don't want to talk to, where the abuse information is, and et cetera. Doesn't always work. Some of the HFC networks are all private, and in that case, you just have to scan it yourself and figure it out. Most of them are that way. Some carriers are not that way. So what if you don't have SNMP access? Well, these things run Linux now, guys. So you just log in via TTL. I will say that this is not always the easiest. And what I mean by that, if you look here on the right-hand side, you'll see that that is the TX and RX on top of the CPU. You physically have to destroy the CPU partially without throwing traces away to get access to the TTL cables. And if you think that's too hard, just wait. You can always desolder the chip. Typically, oh, that's funny. It's supposed to be SPI, not SIP. That's okay. And NAND and grab the data directly. So you can do that via this route. As you can clearly see, these things are tiny. That's a dime for reference, which is great. You can find all sorts of interesting information in these things as well, but that's not what this talk is about right now. I can also see that I am way flying through these, but that's cool. If you haven't gained access to the modem, don't worry. Most of the modems at this point will run a HTTP server locally. If you do a request to 192.168.100.1, provided the device is on the same network, you'll be able to access that device. You can retrieve things such as the SSID, the password, the wireless network, and you can also, log into the device and try to gain access to it with appropriate tools to identify relevant other devices on the network and retrieve data. I can clearly see that I have totally put some slides out of order. This is going back to making a wildcard zone for DNS because, we're going to install SSL strip on it because you might as well just decode everything that exists out there. And I think you guys kind of had an idea of where this is going. So as I was saying, most of these modems run Linux. You have access to SSH, SNMP, web interface, or TTL, aka console. All that's necessary to log in is the logins and passwords, which we just stole from the cable modem itself because it said, oh, here it is, no problem. And apparently I put this slide back in again. As I was saying, I was doing this last second, and I'm sorry. All right, so cool. So we have the wireless name, the wireless password, the modem username, the modem password, all the customer's traffic, and the person's personal phone number, because, well, it is what it is. We also have most usernames and passwords for all the local devices, because, well, it's access to everything. So what can you do to prevent it? Well, obviously, for the average user, don't use all-in-one cable modems. Throw those damn things away and buy yourself your own router. For the more tech-savvy users, they can log into the modem and try to disable, the SNMP, the web interface, and telnet. Be aware that hacking is going to be required in order to do that. It's not going to say, hey, I can just turn this off and everything's happy. It doesn't work that way. Skilled programmers, they can create custom firmware with overrides to tell the device to do things that are not designed to do, or to tell it that, hey, I don't want this stuff to actually start. Or if you really want to, you can just download the open source firmware and customize it to your best, whatever you guys want to do with it. It's great. Oh, okay, so we also have some more prevention stuff. Again, changing default passwords, it doesn't help. It'll just tell you what the things are. It does not matter. Disable unused features on your device. Well, again, you have to be able to hack it in order to turn it off. So good luck with that as well. As you can clearly see, this particular slide was generated by GPT chat, so a lot of it doesn't apply. Use secure protocols such as HTTPS when accessing web interfaces. While that's true, there's still ways of bypassing that as well. Be wary of any unsuspicious activity in your network. Yeah, well, you're not going to even know that this is even occurring, so that doesn't apply either. And consider additional security measures such as using firewalls or VPNs. That is not a bad problem to have. Using VPNs outside is still a good method to try securing your devices. That all being said, we're going to go into some more nefarious aspects of the house, because at this point we just got data. This is all can be used for nefarious purposes, for impersonating an ISP and threatening a user with disconnection from their services unless payments are made, because this is fun, right? We're gonna go after credit card data too. We can use SNMP to do this. We can remotely reboot their devices. I also want to make sure that I reiterate this, that you should never perform these actions. Details provided for strictly educational purposes only. In any event, you receive a call from ISP, get their technical ID, terminate that call, and contact them back generously. Be aware that things like Stingray and other ways of intercepting that voice traffic are possible, so that's not necessarily a foolproof way. So we're going to go into the first demo, and I'm going to go and temporarily turn this mic off, and I got to do things the hard way. Back on.
So as you can see here, this particular modem,
You can't even
my local network, but you see that it's online.
All right, well, I'm just going to go and haphazardly, you can clearly see, or not, that this device is replying to ICMP requests. We're going to do an SNMP set remotely, and you can see now that this device is no longer online. We just told this device that, hey, reboot. And you can essentially just continuously do the same thing over and over and over again until basically you're creating yourself a denial of service attack against the remote device, and you're just using the device's built-in features to do it. It's great. In a couple seconds, when I hit the refresh here on the query button, you'll be able to see that the modem goes from online to offline, and then you'll also see that ICMP requests start to reply back again. I am going to make a quick mention that when the device does turn online, ICMP will start replying and then eventually stop and then start up again. That is it switching from the normal no protection mode into some protection mode. And there you go. So you can see now, well, you probably can't because it's too small, that it's offline now. And then a couple seconds from now, you're going to see that it's going to come back online. You can see that it's responding to ping again. It's going to go and change over to BPI mode, which is why it's dropping out now. And it's just in the process here of coming back online. And essentially, you can just do the same thing over and over and over again. It's great. So you just create yourself a denial of service attack and basically force that user to pay you with their credit card. It's great. This is going to be a problem when I go to the other video, but that's okay. So I'm just going to skip over that. So whatever things are possible on the cable modem side of the house. Well, skilled hackers can duplicate your device online, basically providing them complete control of your online identity and actions. So what I mean by that is any activities that they do, they'll appear to be from your account. This includes illegal things with little consequences to the person who's actually doing it. So if they want to become you, all they have to do is steal the identifying information of that cable modem, and essentially you can become that person online. ISPs do have a method of matching MAC addresses to an IP address. They have to be court-ordered. The process is mandated by the 2007 FCC CPI-NI order, which is designed to protect customer data, ensuring ISPs follow appropriate protocols for identifying and tracking suspicious activity in their networks. The reality is, when these things turn on and they happen, it's not always the case. There's very little risk to the hacker for if they were going to go take your credentials from your modem, that there's not much that they can do at all to help deal with it. So we can go off the deep end. If we're not deep enough, we can go further. And I'm going to have to, let's see what happens here. I'm going to move that aside for a second. And I'm going to go turn this off again. See if we can. Yeah, this is not going to work at all. All right, well, basically, I'm going to go and semi-narrate this because there's no audio that's going to come through on this either. That's okay, though. Basically, somebody called basically saying that he was going to basically kill his wife in this particular case. And then they asked how they kill her, and basically said, I shot her. And basically, SWAT was sent out to this person's house. And he was essentially handcuffed and at gunpoint. And you can see that this is a reoccurring thing. This is not just a one-time thing. I'm not going to go too much into it. I will state that the next clip is what they consider their worst-case scenario. Somebody makes a bogus claim, not this one, the next one after this, that basically says that there's a swatting incident and the guy gets shot and he died from it. It's not something that, there is life and death in some cases that actually matters. This particular gentleman called in bomb squad threats against schools. He made a dedicated channel in Discord to do it. To find and disarm the bombs. And then basically he laughs and everybody goes out of the school and he has access to the closed caption systems because the stuff's not secure. And it's actually a really big issue. I'm not going to talk really anything about the actual swatting side of the house. Just know that the VoIP on your modems are not secure either. They're actually very easy to essentially clone a MTA MAC address and have it come through. Yeah, and as I was going to say here, in this particular case, that gentleman got shot by the police and he was unable to survive. It is a really big problem. Because we don't have audio, that's fine. Well, I am really flying through this. Oh well, that's fine. We got more questions for Q&A. Okay, so perspective role-playing. From the customer perspective, protect and respect their privacy. You should provide us with quantity, not limited service. You should stop charging us more when they failed. From a hacker's perspective, you might expect this because we want to know how it works. That was way too easy. Did you do that on purpose? It's your fault the network is not configured properly. It's also your fault the manufacturer's equipment wasn't configured properly, and you will always have a problem. There is no such thing as a method of a completely secure device. From the ISP perspective, they're just going to lie. They're going to cut corners to save money. Unlimited bandwidth equals bad. It's always more about profit. They say that you can't do things on the internet. Well, guess what? Most of the time people do, and they can. And your information is typically being sold to the highest bidder. That is slowly changing thanks to the CCPA and the GDPR side of the house. And with that, if you don't like it, well, guess what? You don't have a choice. There's only one provider. And I totally through this because I got basically Q&A, and that's all I got left. So, unfortunately, this was supposed to be an hour long, and I only had 30 minutes of material. So I guess at this point I'm going to do Q&A, and we'll go from there. Was it at least useful? Yeah, okay. I also am going to say, feel free to stop by the ISP Hacking Village if you want to play with this stuff and try to learn more on your own. Again, I'm sorry this was only a 30-minute talk. I needed at least another 30 slides. Oops. Yes, go ahead.
As far as the SNMP on these devices,
Yes.
are that information passwords not exactly public communities just what's happening to the private?
It can use both. Most of the devices don't care. So they do have a private and they do have a public SNMP string. Most of these devices will reply one way or the other. I will tell you, for the most part, if you're playing with the enterprise, you want to set something. Setting it is different than reading it. If you want to set it, you're going to need the private side of the house. That said, the private side of the house is actually inside the configuration file anyways, so you just download the file and it'll just tell you what the password is. So it really does not matter. Yes? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is the SNMP exposed on both the WAN side and the LAN side?
Sometimes. It all depends on how it's set up, but for the most part, it's always accessible on the HFC side of the house, which is how they talk to the devices from the head end.
This is the one I'm going to go with because this is the one everybody has.
Anything else? All right, I'll call that as good.